Frak, this podcast, come and listen to us talk about Battlestar Galactica. It's a show that we're talking about. Hello, interwebs, and welcome to the Frak, this podcast. I am your conventional host, Jesse Gender, and I am joined, as always, by...
It's Vera. I'm debating whether to put a dash between conventional just because of how
It was intended.
you.
Conventional.
I'm going to put the dash there, but that does not mean you can use conventional without the dash and have it count as something else. Let's just be real clear about that.
How are you, Vera? It's been so long since I saw you
know
last.
it has been ages. I am exhausted.
Yes,
mostly because I had to be nice to you. So, for folks who don't know, I went to the Gallifrey 1 Doctor Who convention in Los Angeles, and because Jessie is in Los Angeles, I had no way to avoid her, and unfortunately had to have lunch with her. It
was awful,
interminable.
Yes. At least I had a good barbecue rib sandwich to survive with. So I was there really
fish
for that.
And chips, some of the better fish and chips I've had in the States. So
the waiter was really into it. So the waiter was like, "I love those fish and chips." So I was like, "All right, cool."
No, that they were good. But yeah, Jesse and I hung out 2 days ago at time of recording.
Yes.
I was gonna say yesterday because Sunday is very much a blur for me because I spent most of it on a plane. But yeah, there's a little bit of a shock to the system going from 70 degrees to minus 17 Fahrenheit for our international listeners.
You're lucky because it was 80 the week before you were here. So, and now it's 60 this week. So,
fuck you.
I mean, I hate the 80-degree weather. Like the 60-degree weather.
I would have hated the 80-degree as well, but I wasn't exactly champing at the bit for the minus 17.
Yes. No. Fair. Very fair. Well, that's what we get here in LA. To be fair, I like the cold better. Like not minus 17, but I react better to cold than I do to heat. So I'm not the biggest fan when it gets in the summer here. I hate it, but that's just a me thing. I know I am abnormal in that regard. So
I mean, as far as temperature goes, I probably handle cold better than heat. It's the general dreariness that gets to me over the winter because
I love the dreariness.
I know we've had this conversation, but like it's dark early and it's gray and like that's what gets to me, not the actual temperature.
I miss that. I miss gray days so much. Yeah, my weekend, other than seeing you, which was hell, of course.
Naturally.
I had an interesting weekend because Saturday, the evening that I saw you, we went out to, my friends went and saw the play Abduction from the Seraglio, the opera.
Oh, yeah. You told me about that.
Yeah, but the thing was, it was Star Trek aesthetic. So it was they did it years ago, and they brought it back for like a 3-weekend performance here in LA. And you can even see they filmed the live stream of it. So if you want to, they have the live stream of it. And so it was basically doing the Abduction from the Seraglio, but Star Trek. And it seemed like it was going to be a really fun time. Because they kind of turned it into a comedy. They changed all the libretto and everything, like new lyrics and things. I ultimately came away not liking it overall because the original opera is a very Star Trekian story, and it makes sense to make it Star Trek because the original play, it is the story of a girl who was taken by the Turks and then brought back. This is the frame story, and everyone is like making fun of the Turks, like, oh, look at them, they're awful, and kind of racializing, being racist towards the Turks. And she's like, no, they may have kidnapped me, but they were people. Like, they treated me like a person. They were people. So, like, don't be racist. And that's kind of the story that she tells as a framing device. And it's wrapped up in a love story and all of that stuff, opera-y stuff. Which feels very Star Trek because it's like, oh, just make it the Federation and Klingons. Like, oh, the Klingons are people too. Sort of like, instead of it being racializing the Klingons. But the play, what they turned it into in this play was a lot of boomer humor. Like, a lot of the humor was like, And the actors are great. The actor playing Kirk was having a ball. Like he was having a real good time. But a lot of the jokes were like misogynistic of like, I'm going where every man has gone before, talking about the girl and her like vagina.
Uh-huh.
And like the jokes were like there was a sequence where they framed it where like the Klingon was like the bumbling guy who's just so he's just so turned on by the lady that she's like telling him like don't touch me, and he's like going, oh, I want to grab your ass, that sort of thing. It was very boomer lazy humor, and it's just kind of sad because it's like
Take my wife, please.
yeah, yeah, it was not great. And like I was trying to be like, look, it was a fun time. It is what it is. Like I'm trying to not be overly critical of it because it was just meant to be fun, but it was like a big production in a big stage, and something that they brought back, and I'm like, this didn't age well. Also, they made a couple topical jokes, which I don't mind. Some like they were like fuck Trumpy jokes, which is fine. But then there was some like ice jokes which felt in bad taste because he was like doing some like it was like a joke where he was like talking about like oh he was making fun of Trump, which again fine. But then he made like oh let me just oh maybe that's too political. Let me do some like let me bring down the things like knock knock, and then the audience goes like who's there? Ice. And I'm like bad taste, my guy. So
Um,
yeah.
there's I get where like it's supposed to be done in a spirit of fun or whatever, but there is a special kind of pain that comes from a perfectly sound idea ruined by going for the low-hanging fruit and or the
Yes.
lazy version of it.
Yes, it was very like I didn't need it to be high art. I wasn't expecting to go into the Star Trek version. I wasn't expecting like high opera. You know what I mean? It was like Star Trek fun opera, but like the jokes were just low hanging fruit the entire time, and it was a little bit sad.
Mm.
So, alas. So, but you can, but
That's a shame.
yeah, it is. Sorry to put a damper on it. It is. If you're curious about it, they did film the live stream of it, so it is
No, not
online.
really, actually.
I was talking
Uh
more to the listeners, but
you shockingly you didn't really sell me on it.
I know. And then the next weekend, or yesterday, I did an AMA with Tawny Newsome, who was the writer of the recent episode of Star Trek, Starfleet Academy. It was really good. I didn't do
Mhm.
the AMA. My friend Spotted Giraffe did, but she was using my setup, and I was producing behind the scenes, so like getting questions from the audience and stuff. So it was really nice. It was a good time. So a good episode, or good live stream, I should say. Um,
Very cool.
but yes, well, Kirk certainly in that play was trying to be a king over women. Kind of. Kind of works. Anyways, we're going to be talking about the comments from the episode The Woman King of Battlestar Galactica. I'm sorry.
You should be.
Comment number one is from Chapek's Carol. Says the show probably never actively racialized any of the colonies because they were just relying on open casting calls in Canada. An example where laziness and lack of resources may have yielded a better outcome, as opposed to say Game of Thrones. I do find it interesting, though, that if any group could be said to have been racialized by Battlestar Galactica, it's the Geminese. I believe that every person explicitly identified as Geminese by the show is black, except for
Hmm.
the young girl who is caught seeking an abortion in the captain's hand. This feels deliberate. The show may have thought that the audience
Hmm.
would be more sympathetic to religious fundamentalist perspectives voiced by non-white characters. By contrast, the more openly villainous characters who justify their actions using religious fundamentalism are the white Leoben and Deanna Cylons. But the optics of a black character being the one seeking an abortion may have been deemed too controversial. I thought that was a really insightful comment. So.
Yeah. No, and good job tracking that because we haven't been keeping proper track.
Yeah, no, I didn't even think about that. But yeah, that if I could only think about, I think that is the only group that is could be argued to be racialized, and yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense. So, um, let's see. Sarah, our friend Sarah, the fat culture critic, says medical racism is one of those issues that belongs on the handle with extreme care section of the storyteller's toolkit, and this just wasn't. They were even sloppy about whether the medicine was a vaccine or treatment, which, at the very least, don't add to medical ignorance.
Yeah, we didn't get into that, but they were treating it as both a preventative
And a
and
cure.
and a cure in early stages, which
Hmm.
just that's not medicine. That's inoculating someone against something is literally a completely different process from treating even the early stages of a thing. Like they're literally can't be the same thing.
Yeah. Also, this is a good point here. Jace's game says, why wasn't Tom Zarek part of this storyline? He's also Geminis. So,
Oh,
because yeah, remember because that's why Dee first mentioned that she's Geminis way back in her
that's
his.
right. No,
So
no, Sagittarian was them.
Sagittarius. Sorry,
No,
Sagittarius. What I
because
meant.
Geminis was the group we were
Yeah, yeah,
just
yeah, sorry,
talking
sorry.
about before.
Sagittarius. Sorry.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm going to just assume they didn't have him scheduled. Is
Well, wasn't
unfortunately
he in that episode? Wasn't that also maybe I'm misremembering the episode ever? Wasn't that also the episode where we had him in the episode complaining about like Baltar's trial? Uh,
you are correct.
so he was
If
in the episode.
he was, yeah. I mean, I suppose logistically in universe, you could argue that if they because I know he's technically vice president now, but it's very clear that it's also very clear that he's incredibly hands off, and that is
Mm-hmm.
effectively a ceremonial position for the time being.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess one could argue if he's not following the day-to-day events on Galactica, he might not have known that was going on. But yeah, that is kind of a missed opportunity.
Yeah, it would have been very interesting to see him be part of that. So,
I actually,
um,
you know what? I will not be shocked if Zarek never has his colony of origin mentioned ever again. Because if they have really committed to the Sagittarians are the religious nut jobs, but they don't want to do a religious story with him, they're just going to pretend that he wasn't from there.
yeah. I don't know. I don't remember. It might come up. There's a storyline where it could, I can think of, but I don't know if it does
It hasn't
explicitly or not.
really been part of his thing up to now, for sure.
Yeah, I need to. It might not. I don't think it never plays a extremely front and center role. Again, that
Yeah,
I will say. Whether or not it gets mentioned again, I don't know. I don't remember. So,
I would not be surprised if it doesn't.
we'll see. We shall see. Um, 255 AD had a good point here, though. In real life, the reason some people of color are suspicious of Western medical institutions is because their ancestors were experimented on or otherwise mistreated by doctors. Basically, the reason some POC don't trust doctors is because of scenarios very similar to what happened in this episode. But the Sagittarians' pre-existing mistrust of doctors doesn't seem to have anything to do with things like this happening in the past. It's just an arbitrary religious conviction.
Yeah. And I know 255 made another comment aside from that one, kind of noting the unintentionally, but the optics are a little bit uncomfortable of Hilo dragging um D away and she's like, no, I don't want to go.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of there is a little bit of an undercurrent of white saviorism is the wrong term, but this kind of like she can't be trusted with her own medical decisions and needs to be saved
Yeah.
by someone who knows better,
And
which is not a great look with a woman at all. With a woman of color, it's a little worse.
yeah.
Which neither of us really clocked, I think, because it is an aspect of the visual component of the story, just because of the actors involved. It's not part of the text, but like optics are uncomfortable.
And also worth mentioning too, again, too, the actor who plays Hilo is an indigenous like actor as
Yes,
well. So,
but
but visually,
again,
like a lighter skinned person, darker skinned
yeah,
person.
he is never presented in a way that I think most audiences would clock that. And no, I'm
Mm.
not trying to have like a
No. I
white passing conversation or anything, but like nothing about the way he's been shot, presented, written, or anything else would lean anyone towards thinking of him in that way.
Yes, no, I agree. I agree very much so. Only other one I would say is the Bitter Fig says, "Would I enjoy a Stargate podcast from you two? Absolutely. Is it worth doing? Probably not. It's just too huge, and it's also from the syndication TV era where a lot of the episodes are just a random planet of the week. There's a lot of good stuff, and so much of it is more charming and delightful than you'd expect United States Air Force propaganda to be. The highlights of the show are truly great, but with 10 seasons and more than 20 episodes of just Stargate, 20 episodes of just Stargate SG-1, there's a lot of stuff that doesn't really need to be covered. It's not that there isn't a lot of it, but that there's a lot that's going to be a slog just from the nature of the show. Yeah, I agree. I mean, let me just
Well, whether or not it would be a slog kind of depends on your attitude. Like one could argue a lot of Farscape was
Hmm.
adventure of the
And I mean,
week.
a lot
We
of Star
have
Trek is too.
a
Yeah.
lot of Star Trek. Like I suspect for a lot of modern audiences, SG1 is hard to go back to because we've become acclimated to, even with more episodic things, shorter seasons.
Hmm.
And so like the idea of a 20 episode season that is as episodic as that is really is a product of a bygone era.
Yeah. No, Stargate SG-1 has 10 seasons of 20 episodes each, not to mention the two movies that came after it. Stargate Atlantis has 5 seasons of 20 episodes each, and then there's Stargate Universe, which I think has 2 seasons of 20 episodes or somewhere thereabouts each. So, a lot to
So
cover.
here's here's something that like I'm just gonna pitch while we're on mic and I might
Hmm.
regret it.
Hmm.
Um I think I'm not gonna say we commit to this,
Hmm.
but you may or may not have heard that Blake 7 is getting rebooted.
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah.
Actually, with the involvement of Jason Hay Gallery from Big Finish, who I've talked to a few times, and
Yeah, yeah.
I saw and talked to again at the convention. So like this reboot is in very early stages. Like they don't have cast, they don't have a shooting stage. Like it's years away. But if by the time we're wrapping this up, if it's like actually moving, like they're like, oh, we start filming in 6 months or whatever, if it's
Hmm.
that degree of definitely going forward, we might consider doing Blake 7.
I would be down. Yeah, I would
Yeah.
definitely be down for that. That looks like a solid show. I've always kind of wanted to watch it, so I'd be down for that.
Yeah, I've been hearing great things about it for years. Now, like if production on that is completely quiet, maybe we'll do something else if it seems to have slipped into a development hell. But if it does move steadily forward, I think that might be a good one to go with next.
Yeah.
And it is comparatively shorter than other stuff. I think it's I forget how many. I
It's
think
four
it's like
seasons of 13 episodes. I looked it up while you
thank
were.
you. So yeah,
That took us about a
it's
year to get through. We take us
it's
years.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a little over years, 50 some odd episodes.
Yeah. No, I'd be down. I would definitely be down for it. It's been a show on my radar for forever. The other one I was going to toss out was like The Expanse, which is also relative. It's like 4 seasons of 13 episodes as well. So that's
Did
also
that
really.
end or is that still going?
It's ended. It's ended.
That one ended. I'm losing track of what has ended and what is
Well,
still
The
going.
Expanse is weird because, and I have a conspiracy theory about it without spoiling that show, and then we can move on to the actual Battlestar Galactica of it all. But just my conspiracy theory on it, and my hope, actually, weirdly, is the books. The books are there's I think like 8 books, something like that. I've read them all. I forget what exactly. It's like 7 or 8 books, and in between books, I think 5 and 6, there's a time jump, like a 10, 15 year time jump. Actually, it might even be
Hmm.
closer to 20 year time jump. The show ends right where the time jump is. But what's
Hmm.
weird about what the show did is that the show ends at like there's a the way the show ends, like you could theoretically have ended there and been like, all right, the show's done here, this is it, and like we don't need to do that post stuff past this time jump. But they knew when they went into the final season that it was going to be the final season. Like they knew this, but like they knew 2 seasons ahead of time, so they knew when they were writing the final season that it was going to be the final season.
Okay.
And yet, while they were writing the final season, they have a storyline in that season that is only it only makes sense to do that story as a setup for stuff that happens post time jump. Like it is a it's like it is a they adapted a novella from that wasn't in part of the books, but it's a novella that is setting up a interesting piece of information that only gets paid off in stuff past the time jump. So it's like, why even bother doing that story? And the way they have talked about the show since then is they've been cagey on why. And there's my weird conspiracy theory thing is because Jeff Bezos specifically was the one who saved The Expanse from when it got canceled on Sci-Fi Channel. He's like, I love it, so I'll save it. Fuck Jeff Bezos. But
Yes.
yeah, well, to also be clear, I'll get to that point too. But like, I think there might even be a thing where they are planning to come back to the show when the actors are older, rather than because they would have to recast. Either they would have to recast the actors, or they would have to do them in old age makeup because that is a very textual part of the story. So it's like having all these young 20 something 30 actors being like 50 and having to do that all the time, or you just wait. Or you just have them play younger, which would be weird considering it's such a textual part of the show. So that's my weird conspiracy theory about it. Also, I will say, I listened to the one of the authors of the books, Ty Frank. He actually follows me on Twitter and he knows me. He's a cool guy. But I listened to his podcast that he does with one of the actors, Wes Chatham. They have a sci-fi podcast, and they talk about Amazon a bunch. Sometimes they're like, "Yeah, Amazon saved the show," and I just want to say, and it makes it very clear of like, "Thank you, Amazon. I love you." Like he does the whole like, "I don't really love
Hmm.
Amazon, but they saved the show." So I got to play ball a little bit, but it's very clear he does not like Amazon. So yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. It's a weird dynamic. My tinfoil hat theory is they're planning on bringing the show back at some point, but that's my tinfoil hat, or at least hope to. So, so. Anyways,
Well, we will see.
we shall see. All right. With all that said, let's get our hands dirty because we are talking about today's episode, Dirty Hands. Oh,
Oh,
that one wrote itself.
I was gonna say that's
Uh,
the easiest one you've had in a while.
yeah, very much so. Let us get into our recap. We start off in the hangar bay. It's kind of a montage of like hangar bay crew doing hangar bay crew stuff. We see them fueling, most specifically the Vipers and a Raptor up with some fuel, some trillium. I think is the fuel that we get.
I think
Um,
so.
yeah, so they're filling it up with some trillium. We also see a little book with Balthar's face on it being passed around, sort of surreptitiously. And then the thing that the big sort of plot thing that starts happening is Celix, who we finally learned the name of last episode. Um, she comes in and is sort of handing out laundry to the different deck crew workers, and she's sort of getting some shit for it, like you're giving us the laundry from one of the guys. Um, and she sort of I think she brings up she's upset that she got rejected from her application for flight training. Um, and the chief kind of goes up to comfort her and is like, hey, like, she's, you're mission critical. Like we like your need they know we need knuckle draggers more than we need pilots. um and you're the best aviation engineer we've got down here, so trying to comfort her a little bit. But then she gets very touchy, understandable, so because the one guy is an asshole who says, yeah, she knows how to fold a man's undies, and so she kind of lashes at him and gets angry at him. But then the chief like grabs her and stops her. I mean, she's right to say fuck this guy. But he says, hey, you do important work. It's just as important as sitting in the cockpit. Um, and she goes, yeah, I'll just go deliver some laundry. You know.
Yeah.
So she clearly does not see it that way.
I mean, having to work with that dickhead, I see why.
hmm We then have Racetrack and another guy heading out in the Raptor that they just fueled, but then the thrusters jam, stuck in full throttle, and it starts spiraling out of control. They eject, and the Raptor is heading straight for Colonial One as we cut to opening
Which,
credits.
like, that's such an unnecessary
Yeah,
thing that they do. Because, like, you say it's headed towards Colonial One. They frame the shot to make it look like it's going to crash directly into
Roslyn.
Rosalind.
Yeah,
Like, not just her office, but like her. You see out her window the things coming, and like you see an exterior, and she looks out at it, and like the camera like moves past it, and it's like, oh, that's where it's going. It's definitely gonna hit right there. And no,
does not. Very much does not.
I hate that cheap ass shit.
Yeah.
That's right up there with Stranger Things season 5 having like Steve fall and a sudden harsh cut to black for like 4 seconds and then come back and somebody had caught him. Like, what the fuck are we even doing?
Yeah, right. Very cheap. Yeah, yeah. Um. Anyways, yes. It turns out that nothing too bad happened. It just sort of hit Colonial One. We come back. Um. And we clearly see that like Colonial One has been like her like it's been damaged, and
Yeah,
Roslyn. Yeah.
she can't be in her office because the bulkheads need to be repaired.
Yes. And
So she has to
Tori.
cram in the back.
Yeah, and Tori's shoulder got hurt as well. We sort of get alluded to. So like there was some injuries, and it wasn't great, but like it was ultimately okay. But yeah, they've now been stuck in the cramped back of Colonial One. And Adama's there sort of helping her out. It's like now we're gonna have to live even more cramped quarters. Um And I think it's supposed to evoke like everyone, because as we get into later on this episode, it sort of goes into the themes like everyone's roughing it out a little bit. Even she's roughing it out. I think is sort of what it's alluding to, or at least trying to thematically set up.
I don't think it's thematic at all. Like, I understand it is coincidentally thematic. I think this exists simply so Adama can go, well, you can always share one of my beds.
Yeah, which he does do.
Yeah. It's like you're trying to read themes into what to me was such an
I
obvious
don't know.
setup line.
Oh, I think that line is such an obvious setup. I would push back on saying that they only did it for that line. I think there is some level of thematic stuff here because they do try to play Rosalind later on, like be like everyone's roughing it is like part of her argument she makes later on to the chief, as
Huh?
we'll get to. But I
Um,
I maybe I'm giving too much credit to the
you
writers though.
are. You are.
I don't think
You
so.
are.
I don't think
No,
so.
you
But
are. No,
I
you
think
are.
I think you're just cynical. So.
We'll get to what I
Oh,
think.
oh, I have issues with this episode. Don't you worry. I am not I am not giving this episode a pass, but I am saying that specifically I don't think was I'm not as cynical about it as like be clear. I will have my thoughts on this episode, but we'll get there. Um anyways, yes, we basically Adama's over there. He has that one. You're welcome to one of my beds. In a matter of speaking, he says. Um, and they basically learn that the refinery ship that makes Trillium, the fuel, is contaminated with impurities now, and the refinery is just having more and more problems. And they talk about this guy who leads the ship, Zeno Fenner, has been complaining about working conditions and needing spare parts and compensation. And like I think Roslin sort of makes the thing of like, oh, what do they want overtime bonuses now? Whatever, being very kind of dismissive. And she says, well, we've been patient with Fender and his problems. I'm ready to, and Adam was like, yeah, I'm ready to get back on the road to Earth. And Roslin says, oh, has the skeptic decided that this is actually something? He's like, have I ever doubted it? Adama says, which is true. He's never overtly doubted it. So,
I mean, there's the fact that he didn't believe it when he said it originally back in the miniseries, but apparently we just pretend that didn't happen now.
well, I mean, I don't think he's ever doubted like when she's been kind of kicking you on about
I
it. So,
suppose.
yeah. But yeah, so they said they're gonna meet with Fenner, which they do. And Fenner sort of goes to them, and he's in front of them. He's like, "We got people working 18-hour shifts for 6 months. How are people expected to keep that up?" And Adama's like, "Look, we have a problem. And he's very kind of aggressive about it. It's like we only have enough jumps for once or twice. So we won't be able to get away from the sidelines if you get in a real bind. So get the gas flowing, and then we'll talk." And he's like, Fenner, very rightly in my estimation, says it's always later when the gas flows. My phone calls don't get returned. When there's a glitch, I get FaceTime with the president and with Adama. Maybe I should start having more glitches. And then he alludes to when you hear the people. This line says from the book, as the book says, when you hear the people, you won't have to fear the people. Which sets Roslin off instantaneously, saying, "Did you say the book? Go and arrest him for extortion." He's immediately arrested, and she sort of tells Adamas like the book he's referring to is Baltar's Ramblings of a book, My Triumphs, My Mistakes by Gaius Baltar. And she said maybe we should have a good old fashioned book burning.
Hmm.
So yeah, so this is I mean, at this point in the episode, I'm like, realistic. People in power are not giving a shit about the union workers.
There's going to be a very specific point
Oh,
at
I know
which I turn
exact.
I turn on this episode. Um, Up until then, it's it's gonna do a lot right. It's gonna squander every single bit of it, but it's gonna do a lot right.
Yeah. I
The
think we're
only
on the
thing
same. I think I know the exact moment you're talking about.
the only note I had at this point was like, boy, it feels like we're jumping ahead on a lot of stuff simultaneously because like right off the bat we're like, oh, Celix is trying to get into the pilot program. Oh, and there's this guy who's heading up the ship who we've never heard of and never had to deal with before. Oh, and there's this book that's already been written and is already out there, and we just kind of part of my brain was like, that's like at least one too many elements to just dump on us without warning. But it's not that bad.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I would say is I would have liked to see maybe Baltar writing in a previous episode or something.
Yeah, I would have
Yeah,
too.
yeah, something like that. Anyways, we have a scene with the chief, and Callie and their kid. She is still healing a little bit. She's still limping, and he's like, "Oh, you were moving better the other day. Is that, is the Ben's supposed to do that?" And she says, "No, I'm." The chief says this to Callie, and Callie's like, "Well, I'm upset because of what happened to Celix." And Chief says, "Well, yeah, they should have told her off the bat. They need knuckle draggers more than they need pilots. So they shouldn't have gotten her hopes up." And Callie's like, "No, I don't think that that's what it is. She's just not part of the ruling class. I read it in Baltar's book." And Chief is very dismissive of that. But Callie starts arguing the point. It's like, all the pilots come from the rich colonies, like your Capricas and such. Whereas the knuckle draggers come from the poor colonies, like Sagittarius and Geminis, as we sort of get alluded to. And she points out, it's like, name one officer in the fleet that comes from the rich colonies. And Chief is like, well, D. And Callie's like, well, how did she get promoted? She married an Adama. And I'm just like, yeah, Callie's all right. She's correct.
I couldn't remember if D had made officer prior to that.
I don't think so. I think we only see her. The jump we see is in the year-long jump. She is now first officer of the Pegasus with Adama. And one could assume that the reason that happened is because they were married, because when we were in the flashback when they first arrived at New
Yeah, yeah,
Caprica,
yeah.
she
No,
was
like
not.
her becoming first officer, I get that, but like first officer is not the starting rank of officer.
Yes,
Like I
yes,
was
yes.
trying to figure out if like in her position in the CIC whether or not she was considered an officer for that or not, because otherwise Callie is slightly wrong about that, or at least wrong in her wording.
Yes.
Because the wording maybe should have been she didn't get promoted to upper command
No,
until she was married.
I'm reading here in the Wikipedia page, the colonization of New Caprica, the jump ahead. It says a few months later, Duala has received a lieutenant's commission and is an officer now. So yeah,
Okay.
she did become an officer between the jump during New Caprica. So
Okay.
yeah, so Callie is correct.
Yeah.
So
All right.
yeah. So Callie's correct. We established that.
Yep. Wikis don't lie.
Yes, yes. The wiki could lie, but that's at least what it says there.
Yeah.
So if the Battlestar Galactica wiki failed me, blame them, not me. But Adama then calls at this point after sort of she makes her point and tells the chief that the foreman's been arrested. And Chief Rhoda mentions like, oh yeah, I knew the guy who was in the Union. And
The Union, very specifically, because this was in the previously on the Union being the unions on New Caprica.
yes, so the chief was the head of the Union president
Yes.
of, yes, way back. And the Adama is saying, oh, the reason that Fenner got arrested was arrested for pissing off the president.
Which was the worst answer he could have given.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it is unfortunately fairly accurate,
Mm-hmm.
but like, dude, at least you could have said he made a veiled threat at the president, something.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
just because Callie again is about to make a real good point in a second.
Yeah, because like when he hangs up, he's like, "Oh, I have to go over to the refinery ship to kind of take over and look at it now that Fenner's gone." And Callie sort of says, "Well, why did he get arrested?" He's like, "Arrested for pissing off the president." He's like, "Oh, they can arrest you for that." And Chief kind of dismisses it, saying like, "Oh, well, I think he was joking." But Callie makes a good point on that front.
Yes, Bill Adama, famous kidder.
Yes, yes. And then Callie says as Chief is getting ready to go, is like, "Do you think about the Union?" And he's like, "No, there's it's gone now." And she says, "Well, all the people in the Union are still here, and there's no one to stand up for them." So,
Yeah.
so we like Callie in this scene. She's making all the correct points. So, we then cut to Baltar's cell getting searched with Rosalind there, and they're being very aggressive, like tearing up his like sheets in bed, and Rosalind is very clearly looking for the papers of his book, sort of like, saying, we knew you were smuggling them out with your lawyer. Where are they? And
Well,
Balder's like,
she doesn't just say we knew they were smuggling out. Like we intercepted them. No one has read them
well,
but
I was
me.
gonna get to that. That's towards the end of the scene. But yes, he says, "Oh, so you've read them? The people are reading it now." And she says, "Yes." And she lies and says, she's the only one who read it. What you're thinking, casting yourself as a man of the people, a revolutionary? And Baltar's like, "So, well, I just wish to strike a chord with the common man." Bullshit. Yes, he very much was trying to. I'm very clearly sure that he was intentionally aware, like, yes, this is a real dynamic, and I can exploit it to get for my own benefit. I think is his thinking. At least that's how
Yeah,
I read it. Yes.
yeah.
We'll talk more about him. There's some stuff that comes up later that I think will add some interesting wrinkles to it that I'll get to. But
Well, the thing that I'm wondering, well, no, they would have because he said if he's seeing a lawyer, so he knows he's getting a trial.
yes.
Because that was the thing that I was wondering, like, does he know they're going to give him a trial yet? And if he has a lawyer, then he does. So yeah, that does cloud his motivations a little bit.
We'll get to more later that a scene that I like later on that I wish they had gone further on, but we'll get there. Um, but yes, they start strip searching him, and Head Six says, "Don't bend to her. Don't make them break your dignity." And so before they can search his underwear,
Yeah,
he sort
which,
of
which
pulls.
she says while sliding her hand into his pants.
Yes, yes, yes,
Of
yes.
fucking course, Ron,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
therapy.
Yes. But he does pull it out of his pants and sort of give it to her, being like, "Well, I'll give it to you now before you have to, pull my pants down to do it." So,
Yeah.
yep. We then have the chief arrives at the refinery. He recognizes the guy who meets him there. His name is I didn't for some he Cabot. Cabot is his name. So Cabot's the guy who meets him, recognized him, said they clearly was in the Union back on New Caprica. I like there's a little beat here where like Chief gets his hand dirty while making him's like, oh yeah, that just happens. And I like the metaphor of like how he's getting dirty with the workers now. So I like that as a little bit. Um, but yeah, why did I blank on his name? I just had it a second. Cabot sort of says, I have it later on in my notes. That's why I keep having to look for it. Cabot says he's feeling a lot better when I heard they were sending you. So they have a lot of confidence in the chief as a man of the people. And they sort of go in to look at the refinery, and there's just a tiny little mound left. There's not a lot left of this stuff in this huge sort of warehouse kind of space. So clearly they are really low on supply, and they say that you're looking at the entire fuel supply of the entire fleet right now. We then have him give the chief the tour of the mining operation. It's just like this long belt, very clearly like working class factory dangerous conditions, like very clearly evoking,
It's very industrial.
yes, very industrial, like pre muckraking sort of era, industrial revolution era of the United States kind of vibe. Mining sort of vibe as well. So everyone's dirty. It's really busy. A lot of people working in very cramped conditions. We also see there's a young kid about like 12 years old named Milo, and who's there. And Cabot says, "Oh, he's the best grease jockey I got," and the chief is kind of surprised that there's such a young kid. There's child labor here. Um, and he chief sort of asks, well, why is everything not working, why is this not running right now? And they sort of let him find out that there's these pressure seals are missing. And basically they don't outright say, they do everything but say they outright took it, saying, it's like chief's like, you can't frack around with this, the admiral. And they say, well, the admiral can kiss my ass, Milo does. And Cabot sort of says nicer, it's like, Chief, you know what this is about. Like, we want to improve working conditions and Zeno getting out of jail. And if those things happen, maybe we'll find those seals. But until then, the fleet isn't going anywhere.
Yep.
So basically doing mini protest sort of thing.
Hmm.
Um, and then we have the chief with Adama and Roslin sort of reporting on all of this. And he's telling us like, we did a search, but we couldn't find any of this. And Adama's like, well, this is sabotage. We could arrest them. And the chief sort of is like, well, look, hey, they could have rigged something up to injure me. They could have like done something much worse. All they've done is just this, and all they're trying to do is buy themselves some time. Um, and he also points out like there's a reason that quality control is failing. Most of these workers haven't had a day off since the original attack on the colonies. so even before New Caprica, and he says it's like slave labor. And it's like they don't have control over their lives. Adama says that's absurd. Rosin says nobody's having a good time. So this is like her. This is why I'm saying like I think there's a point to her having like been shoved in the back of Colonial One because it sort of like adds to her argument of like yeah even I'm not having a great time either, sort of thing.
Okay, but I'll just make this point now. If that is intended to be thematic, then they kind of gave away where they're gonna fuck this up really early on
Yes,
because they are equating people working 18-hour days in a situation that they cannot get out of to a woman having to move into a smaller office.
yes. Well, I think yeah. If they had been smart about it, I would have been like, oh, your roughing it is nowhere near their roughing it. And I think and I think that this is intentional,
They
but I don't think they do. They don't play off of that. And
they teed themselves up to do that.
yes, and they
They
don't.
don't.
Yes. And that's why I'm saying I do think it was thematic, and I don't think they used it properly, because we'll get there. But I do think it was intentional. Because I do think the intention was to have it be like, look, she's suffering too. So, yes.
And the idea that they thought it was actually in any way equivocal shows how this is going to fall apart real bad.
Yes. So when I say I thought that was thematic, I'm not saying it was good. Anyways, Rosin sort of makes that argument. And it's like we'll talk. It's like if they get things running, maybe then we'll talk to them about improving working conditions. And Rosin's like extortion is not an acceptable level of protest, and says who's the leader. And Chief sort of thinks about it for a minute and just goes, just Cabot. So I think we're supposed to allude to like that he's not telling the full truth, but just not willing to give anyone up. But he's still giving someone up.
Yeah, the he actually brings a lot across in the performance.
Mm-hmm.
My read on that was like he could easily give a list of names and he can't give them nothing, so he gives them one name.
Yes. And we said, Chief Dom says, put him in the brig, let him sort it out. And the chief tries to interject one more time. He's like, hey, they're just trying, and Roslin cuts him off in a very condescending way, like, we're done.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, I'm going to praise this until I won't. I like this scene because it is like, oh, Adama and Roslin are dismissive jerks and saying, like, oh, if they were just civil and weren't trying to cause problems, then we'd listen. Clearly, they haven't been. So bullshit. But that is their argument. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, it's worth noting because we have talked about before, mostly more in the first season, where like conditions weren't great, but like they were in an emergency situation.
Mm-hmm.
And it's worth noting that we're now what canonically like 3-4 years.
I would say year and a half. It was about 6 months between Battlestar Galactica and Battlestar Galactica, or start of Battlestar Galactica and New Caprica, and then we got a year jump. So maybe about 2 years at this point.
All right. We're 2 years in, and it's clear at this point the emergency is never going to be considered over.
Mm-hmm.
And so at a certain point, while I'm sure if you went back, you could probably find either of us pointing out, like, yes, this sucks, but like everyone's gonna die. With some of the earlier clashes that they had, like with Zarek and with some other stuff. But like at this point, if you're 2 years in and still in the emergency, then something is fundamentally fucked.
Mm-hmm. Yep. A state of emergency that never ends.
What? God, it's almost as if there are certain types of governing philosophies that operate on that principle.
Yeah. A never-ending emergency. Hmm. I wonder what type of government that is.
Never-ending emergency, constant threat. We must always be vigilant.
Work for the greater good of the people. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ignore your own needs.
Yeah.
Anyways, very close relationship with the military and government. Anyways, we then have the chief is unable to sleep that night, so he goes to see Cabot and Zeno, who are both in the same cell. And Cabot is basically Zeno's like Chief shows up and he sees Cabot, and Cabot is having a PTSD flashback, essentially.
Yeah.
Like he has been scratching at the wall. Zeno reminds him, like, hey, he was in silent detention on New Caprica, so he is clearly being triggered very hard, being put back in a
Yeah, like
cell.
all of his fingers are bloody because he was scratching at the walls, and now he's
Mm-hmm.
just kind of down with his head in his hands.
Yes. And so he's having an episode, and Zeno's like, you need to get him out of here. And the chief uses this moment, like he's wrestles with for a second, but he's like, where are the seals? And it kind of keeps escalating. Of Chief like saying, where are the seals? Where are the seals? If you say it, then we'll get it. And Zeno finally caves. And he's like, the air vents. Like we hit him in the air vents. And Chief says, all right, I'll tell the president to release them. So, yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, Chief sort of betrays his class consciousness there, as in that moment. Not a lot of solidarity there, Chief.
No.
Nope. We then have the chief back on the refinery. He puts the seals back on, and he says, "All right, let's fire this back up." The crew is clearly upset, not very happy with this outcome. Milo then asks, like, "Hey, can I throw the switch?" Cabot's also back. I should note. It's like I've run almost every machine on this thing. The only thing I haven't done is turn the whole thing on, and so the chief lets him do it. And the chief sort of like looks around and is like, yeah, just watching and sort of taking in, like, yeah, no one's happy
Well,
with this.
this is also when he asks Milo very specifically how
What
old
is
he
age?
is, and
Yes,
finds out
12.
he's 12.
Yes.
He's 12 and has worked every single machine on the ship.
Mm-hmm. What would have been interesting to have done here? I get if the actor wasn't around, but it would have been interesting to bring back Boxy for this role.
Yeah, what a
Mm-hmm. Would have been an interesting sort of like, oh, we lost track of him and this is where he ended up, and now he's like living this life, which would be
that
fat.
would have been fascinating.
Yeah, I get why I probably didn't have the actor availability or whatever, but it would have been interesting. So
Also, they probably just didn't want to acknowledge a character
that they just forgot about.
that they quietly stopped pretending existed at all.
Yeah. Well, I think that would have been interesting though. That would have been like pointing. That would have been pointing to the episode's point of like, well, we forget about people. I think that would have actually been very interesting. So
No, that would have been really fascinating.
yeah, sadly, a missed opportunity there. Again, it's like one of those like it's not doesn't ruin the episode or anything, but like it would have been an interesting idea. Anyways, we have the chief going back to talk to Rosalind again, and he's sort of making an argument to her of like, hey, look, there are kids there. These children work in the refinery. They're 12, 15 years old. The families have been refining since the beginning. And like he says, like it's been 2 years. Yeah, this is where he says it's been 2 years. Parents have been teaching them how to run the machinery, and they're passing on their skills. And Rosalind sort of like, well, sorry, this is Rosalind's argument. It's like, look, like this is like we need. That's not ideal, but it's what we got to deal with. We need people to like learn how to use these machines and like pass this on in some way. But then the chief sort of makes the argument: are you seeing what's happening here? Jobs are starting to be inherited. What if it's in 10 years, I have to, what, train my son to be a deckhand because that's what I am and all he can ever be? Is that the future that we want to build? Like a weird class caste system? Which he doesn't say that outright, but that's clearly the illusion that he's making there.
Yeah.
This argument does seem to hit Rosalind. She says that's a really good point. I'll have Tori make a list of people who can work in the refinery, who like have skills working with heavy machinery, things like that, and we'll hold a public lottery and we'll start shifts on the refinery, training people in. And this seems to at least appease the chief on this front.
Yeah, for the time being.
Yes. We then have the chief back on the deck, and he's basically rounding up the people who have won quote unquote won the lottery. Were selected in the lottery. And getting them to take a shift on the refinery. And a young kid comes up. He alludes to having been in college, so presumably he's probably like 20, something like that.
So. Yeah, he kind of has the look of like an 18, 19-year-old.
Yeah, something along those lines. And he's like, hey, I don't know who I'm supposed to talk to, but I don't have skills to work here. And they're like, well, it says you're a farmer. You're looking for people who know how to use heavy machinery. It's like, no, I just worked on a farm for a summer in college. Now I'm like a farmer. That defines me. They sort of like Chief sort of talks to his second in command for a second, decides like, hey, if we make an exception for this kid, there's gonna be 10 more behind him. So Chief's like, nope, can't do it. Like put him on the ship. And he's just like, hey, it's just a temporary thing. And the kid's like, hey, check my record. I'm a farmer. He starts yelling. He's like, who am I supposed to talk to about this? I'm not a farmer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. which again kind of goes to like, yeah, we're defining people by, their backgrounds and such. So, which will get more explicitly
Hmm.
pointed out later. Um, this perturbs the chief, so he starts reading Baltar's manifesto. That he starts reading into it, and one of the lines here is the emerging aristocracy in the underclass. So it's like sort of the
Hmm.
title of it. So then he goes to see Baltar, and he sort of started asking Baltar's like, all right, so tell me how much of this is fact or fiction. Jonathan Frakes showing up is
Hmm.
sort of asking the question.
The montage, we made it up.
It's false. It never happened.
It's a fake.
It's fiction. It's an urban legend that never happened. No way. We got you.
It's totally fabricated.
Exactly. Um, and Baltar sort of says, "What do you?" Well, Baltar points out, like, "Oh, so you've read it. So the president is an accomplished liar. We know this." Um, and he sort of asks him, "What did you make of it?" And Chief goes, "Well, it's a pile of crap." And he's like, "Well, what? My analysis of a bifurcated society scares you?" And Chief's like, "No, you saying you're a farm boy from Erelon? That you were born on a dairy farm? I have a hard time picturing you shoving manure." And he even says, "You don't even sound anything like them." And then Baltar makes this kind of speech of like, I take that as a particular compliment. The Erelon dialect is particularly hard on the ears, I always found. There's something about the consonants in the back of the throat, and his accent starts changing to match presumably what the Erelon accent sounds like. I think it's a kind of sounds like a drier Irish is kind of the vibe.
Yeah, he kind of puts it at the back of the throat, but he doesn't add a particularly different pronunciation
Mm-hmm.
on anything, which I suppose makes sense because they haven't been doing regional dialect
Mm-hmm.
accents in this show anyways. So they probably figured they couldn't really get away with that.
Mm-hmm. With anything too particularly distinct. So.
Yeah. So here's the thing, and I don't think this is a problem.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I believe him.
Mm.
Even with the accent shift, I don't know if I believe him.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a bad thing because it doesn't matter if I believe him. It matters if anybody else believes him. But I just find it interesting just for how long I've been watching this guy lie through his fucking teeth
Mm-hmm.
that he might have just had his most honest moment in the entire show,
And you don't believe him.
and I still don't believe him.
Yeah, because his point, and this is a very real thing that we know happens, which is people who move from one place to another and they are looked down upon. They will change their accent, especially kids will change their accent to sort of fit in with the culture that they're now in. Will like lose their accent, especially if that accent is
Yeah.
judged.
Although he mentions not getting to Caprica until he was 18, so by that point it's probably
No,
closer to
10-year-old boy.
no, he said I'd left when I was 18 and I never went back.
I wrote down 10-year-old boy.
I think that was just in reference to like when he was working on the farm.
Maybe. Let me double check here. Background reason. 18th birthday. No, you're correct. You're correct. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. And the reason I mentioned that is because by then the accent would be settled in. So it would take a lot of if it's true, it would take a lot of very deliberate effort and be closer to something like code switching
Mm-hmm.
than just losing the accent because you left.
Yes, yes. And he's like, yeah, because Caprica is like, oh, it's the seat of politics, culture, and art. And Airline is just a dry, ugly rock that's made to be the food basket of the 12 colonies. So yes, he was very much code switching. Yes, so I think you're correct on that. But the kid thing does happen, but
Oh
obviously,
yeah.
but yeah,
Like
this is more clearly
he
evocative of that.
he mentions being younger there, but like the point at which he left, it's not. If he had left when he was 10, the accent shift might have just happened on its own, but he had to make a choice to do that if
Yes,
he left when he was 18.
yes. Um, and so okay, so here's my thing with this that I found interesting and honestly wish we had dived deeper on. Like I think as it stands here, I think this is interesting just for the is he telling the truth? He might have had the most honest thing he's ever said, but he might just be bullshitting just to use it as a story to get his own, to just build up class tensions for his own benefit.
Yeah.
Which fits him very well. I think that is a thing that can happen in real life, and it is a very real thing. It doesn't mean he's wrong about the point, but he's clearly using it for his own benefit. Does happen, and I think it's reflective here. Something else they could have done that I would have been interested in if we dove into it, which we don't. Which there is something here of like uh people like Elon Musk who do the whole like I come from, I came from South Africa and I was poor and I didn't have a dime on me. And it's like, yeah, you clearly had fucking money coming from also South Africa. Like there's a very bifurcated class society there, very racialized class society there
Yeah, like
as
you
well.
you were poor by the standards of the ruling white class.
Yes, exactly. So this like rags to riches storyline that Elon Musk gives, like there's not. I mean, if you look at his like some of the Elon Musk specifically his history, like there's not truth in the fact that like he wasn't necessarily born rich, but like he wasn't born poor either. You know what I mean?
No,
So,
no, not by any reasonable metric. It's funny you mentioned that because the person who actually came to my mind was J.D. Vance,
yeah, him as well.
who very much rode his coming from a more rural area and a more like he's flat out called it hillbilly country.
Yeah, with Hillbilly
And
Elegy is that whole is him
yeah, his
profiting off that
fucking
whole fucking
book.
narrative. Yeah.
Yeah, but coming from that and very sincerely coming from that area, but like having been buoyed by like whether or not he was born with money or not, he's been buoyed along by people who did have money
Mm-hmm.
for a very long time. And like,
Yes.
no, we don't talk about that. Oh, but I did genuinely come from this area. Like, we know it doesn't fucking matter for a
Mm-hmm.
litany of other reasons, though.
Yes. Basically, it's one of those things where it's like, this is fine as is, and obviously this episode's doing a lot, so I don't necessarily knock it for this. I'm just saying, I'm like, there's there's something interesting here you could dive into with him if you wanted to about like, but how poor were you really? You know what I mean? That sort of
Yeah.
thing. So, because it does reflect JD Vance, Elon Musk, many other rich people who like, I only had, I mean, fucking J.K. Rowling does this whole thing where she's like, I was living in a poor house, and that's how when I wrote Harry Potter and became rich. I'm like, uh-huh. You came from a rich family. You were in no way having any threat to your well-being in terms of
Yeah,
doing it.
she could afford to take the time off to write the book.
Yes. Yes.
Was she not working as she wrote the book? Yes, because she could
Mm-hmm.
afford to not work. Was it? No, the one that I always think of. Fuck, what's his name? The guy who voiced Mr. Incredible.
Oh,
Fuck. Gonna have to
uh,
look it up. It's gonna
one
bug
sec.
me.
I got it right here. Give me 2 seconds. Bob Parr.
Bob Parr's the character.
Oh, Craig T. Nelson.
Thank you. The one I always think of is Craig T. Nelson. Is this glorious clip of him on Fox News, being like, you got to pull yourself up by your bootstraps. You got to do it yourself. I I was on welfare. I was getting food stamps. Nobody was helping me. What, dude? You were getting food stamps. Yes, somebody was.
Yep. Yep.
The fact that on camera he said it. He said that thought out loud. I was on food stamps and nobody was helping me. You piece of shit.
Mm-hmm.
Good actor, but fuck off.
Yep. Yes. So Balthar sort of says, Chief says, well, none of that exists here. And Balthar's like, yeah, we kept the democracy, we have governments, rights, elections. Well, then you should be perfect. Or sorry, Chief says, we have kept the democracy, we have governments, rights, elections here. Like none of that's here now. And Chief goes, oh, well, then you should be perfectly happy then. Leave me in peace. The aristocracy wants a working class to feel looked after while they get scraps from the table. Again, Balthar's right, but using it for his own ends. He's like, I have a question I ask at the end of my book. I'll tell you what it is because I don't think you probably read it. I'll save you the time of reading it. Do you think the fleet will ever be commanded by someone whose last name is not Adama? And says one set of rules to the aristocracy, one set of rules to the rest of us. So the worst person you know just made a good point.
Yes.
um
The timeless Onion headline.
yeah.
That one never stops being
That one,
perfect.
it's that one and another school shooting happens in a country that says what's the exact wording on that one that I see constantly? It's
I
like
can't remember.
It's something along the lines of like people say we can't do anything about this in the only country that continues to have school shootings. I think it's something like that. Yeah. So
something like that. The other phrase that's in my head, it's not an Onion headline, but it's a Simpsons quote. But boy, does it feel like the Democrats right now. We've tried doing nothing and we're all out of ideas.
Yep. 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 Well, we go back over to the refinery. Chief is there, and he's sort of checking in on everything, seeing how everything's working. We have the new worker, the farmer guy, is there from the lottery.
Danny.
Yeah, Danny. Um, and so talking about how everything's running now. We're getting some shifts. Things seem to be going on the better, but then the whole system gets jammed. And then basically, like the chief says, "Oh, we should shut it off," but they can't. They said if you shut it off, it'll cause a chain reaction and it'll blow us all to hell. So we gotta unjam it now. Chief tries to, but he can't get his hand under the belt to get at it. He just can't. His hands are too big and it's too slippery. So Danny, the farm boy, the quote unquote farm boy,
Yeah.
comes in and he says he can do it. He goes to do it. He manages to get it out and clears it off and gets everything set up. But then when he pulls out, his arm is gone because
Yeah.
the belt slammed on his arm when he freed it. So
This is really good because there's
Mhm.
actually there was a lot communicated in this scene. And
Mhm.
it's not just that the nice kid who we saw earlier got hurt. And I'm not saying that has no impact. It has some. But the thing that really stuck with me was that a jam happens and the equipment is not designed to fail safe.
Mhm.
The equipment is designed to attempt to keep working regardless, and whoever is working on it has to put themselves into the path of bodily harm to clear it, because it's not designed to just be stopped, which would be safer. All
Mhm.
the consideration is for the work, none of it is for the workers. Like, and nobody has to say that. That is just the reality of this specific kind of industrialization, where you don't even have the option of an emergency shutdown because it's just not designed to do that.
Yeah, and it'll kill them all anyways if they
Yeah.
do. Yeah. So, and so I like that element of it. The other element of I do is it also evokes child labor we were talking about the Industrial Revolution, and one of the things that happened there with child labor laws is that kids were the ones used to go into machines to fix them, and a lot of kids lost limbs and were permanently disabled or killed doing exactly this thing, where they were the ones that were small enough to get in there and fix it without having to turn it off.
Yeah.
And a lot of kids were harmed that way. And this it very much evokes that as well, because the chief's not able to do it, but the younger kid is able to get his hand in there, and now he is permanently disabled because of it. So,
Yep.
mm-hmm.
No, there's a lot going on in the scene. It's a good scene.
Mm-hmm. At this, the chief kind of. And the other thing too that I want to say as well, that I also liked about this as well, is that Danny's arm is cut off and it's gruesome, and we see people helping him right then. But all
Mm-hmm.
the other workers are just sort of like, yeah, like there's no one like aghast at it. It's just like this is the reality of it. Like there's no one particularly shocked at it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And the chief kind of clocks this. He notices this at just these sort of resignation at this moment that is around here, and he basically walks over to the flip off switch, turns it off, and says, "We're on strike." So and everyone cheers. So great scene.
Mm-hmm.
This scene just the whole part of it. I think this is the best scene of the episode. It was great. So we then we see a quick scene where the pilots come down and want to get in their Vipers to go deal with stuff, and the deck crew says, "Oh, we've been contacted by Callie, Chief's wife. We're on strike too. Vital missions only." So,
Yep.
and so the chief is taken into the brig, and then we get to the scene that almost was great. It's Chief versus Dom.
This scene is very damaging to a specific character. This is not the scene that lost me on the episode entirely.
Mm-hmm.
That's still coming.
Well, let me put it this way: the ending of this scene in conjunction with the next one, they both make me dislike what the episode does.
Yeah.
But Adama basically confronts the chief and says, Chief's like, "We're doing a general strike," and Chief says it's a mutiny. We shoot.
No, Adama says it's a mutiny.
Sorry, I meant to say Adama. Sorry, Adama says it's a mutiny. We shoot mutineers, Chief. And the chief says we're leaving people behind. They have no say in their life. And the Dama says men and women on the ship are not allowed to disobey an order. If they do, it means we could like if they disobey an order, like the whole ship is built on people having to sometimes do orders that they may not want to do, and we can't have that because it breaks down the chain of command, and then the Cylons will kill us if we that happens. Ignoring the fact that you very much are supposed to and allowed to disobey an illegal order, which is a
There's
thing.
that.
So, which is not necessarily the argument here, but that is something that is legal. So,
Yes, you actually are required to.
yes,
Like there's weird gray areas in some places, but like if it a blatantly illegal order, it is your duty to not follow it. But even setting that aside, like Adama, these are civilians you're talking about. I understand that you need the entire fleet to function as a military, but the people who just started striking, like you could argue the ones on the Battlestar itself.
Well,
like,
I think that's what his
like
point.
the knuckle draggers.
That's
but
his point.
Yeah, but he's gonna name a bunch of people, including some of the folks from over on the other ship, doesn't he? Or
no,
doesn't
I think because
he,
I think the very
he names people. Doesn't he name Cabot as one of them?
no, I
No,
don't think so.
okay, never mind that.
No, because the point for me of this scene and why I have feelings about the end of it, because let me just get through the scene and I'll make my point.
All right.
I'll make my point is the basically makes that argument. Chief sort of stands strong, and then Dama says, "All right." He calls and tells the officers to grab Callie, and says, "I will." You know, and Chief's like, "Callie was just following my orders." He's like, "Well, she's a ringleader. She goes first, then your deck gang. You know, I will put. You know, I don't want to, but I will put 10 Callies up against the wall to make sure the ship runs efficiently." And so the chief calls it off. He calls Callie.
I mean, let's be really clear. He does not imply. He says flat out, "I will have her shot."
Yes. No. 100%. Yes. Very much so. And the chief calls off the strike. He's lost, and he kind of tells Callie like, "Yeah, no, we did great." Because Callie sort of asks him like, "Oh, did they concede?" And he says, "Yeah." And she's like, "Yeah, I'm really proud of you." And they release her. So then at that point, Adama says, "You can go now, Chief. I believe there's something you wanted to discuss with the president." So here's my read on this scene.
But before you do, I just want to say my note for this scene was "fuck you, Bill."
Yes. Oh, well, yeah. This is what I'm going to get to. I liked this scene. I hate where it does at the end in conjunction at the end here because it alludes to what the intention of the scene is for me. What the intention by the writers of the scene was. I liked this scene because it is people in power not allowing the people below them to stand up for their own rights. Now, I think the scene is trying to communicate, well, let me get to it. It's like, fuck Adama, he's fucking wrong, and I think this is a very accurate show and display of power of this. He's a character who is willing to kill people to maintain the power dynamic that he has. Mm-hmm. What the episode, I think, is trying to get at, and I disagree with it, especially in conjunction at the end of the last scene, is that his issue was not with the general striking workers. It was specifically with just the military personnel that were disobeying orders. And that end of the scene where he says, "Oh, I believe there's something you wanted to discuss with the president," is, I think, meant by the writers to soften our read of Adama here, to be like, well, I think it's meant for the audience to go, "Oh, Adama his problem was just with the military workers that were striking." That is not allowed. And I think what that ultimately does is it's saying to the audience, "No, Adama's right. He's softening and he's going to be very magnanimous and let the chief still fight for the civilian workers, but in the military, we can't have that." And it's a soft defense of the military industrial complex and dehumanizing people within the military, while doing so through humanizing Adama at that moment. When up until that point, we have seen Adama continually, and I think accurately, I think it's an accurate depiction of this type of dynamic. Continually, Adama has been, fuck the worker, fuck the people striking, we need to get things moving, we need to get things going. And I think this scene played well until we get to that end, and then suddenly Adama has this turn of heart that is meant to soften us on him as a character and meant to soft defend, well, the military people don't get to have these articulations of human rights. And I really dislike that.
See, my read, which is also in conjunction with the next scene, my big issue is more to do with the general optics of, oh, well, just do as you're told, do some capitulation, like bend, bend to the ruling class, and like that's all you had to do. That's not, and like maybe they'll be reasonable because both he and Rosalind are going to be painted over the course of this scene and the next as
Mm,
the reasonable ruling class who just had to have just you just needed to come at them in a reasonable manner. You just needed
hmm.
to not be so disruptive about it. You just had to explain it in the right way. Of course they'll be
And
understanding,
also fucking
which
condescending too.
massively condescending, but even setting the tone aside, it is it is such a misunderstanding of how power dynamics
Hmm.
actually work. And it's so here's what
Yeah,
I'm
this
gonna
this
say.
this is what I was gonna get to in my next scene too. So yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to say this now while I have the thought. This is a storyline and a theme they should not have tackled at all because they were unwilling to truly dirty up Adama and Rosalind.
Yes, that is my
Be-
big problem.
yes. Ultimately, in the interest of preserving them as characters we like, they completely undermine everything else that is going on.
Hmm.
Because there is an up to this point there is an honesty in the way that these working people have are being treated and being treated as disposable and being treated as whiny for not wanting to work 18 hours 7 days a week. There is an honesty to that, but if you're going to depict that, then you have to be very, very honest about who is putting them there and the lengths they're willing to go to keep them there. And you can't do that if you want those to be your heroes.
Hmm.
You can't.
Yeah, and I found it. I was very disappointed in that front because it's like I would be fine with showcasing Adam and Rosin being dirtied up, you know,
Yeah.
and the show
That
is just not willing to go there.
like theoretically for what this show pitches itself as being, that should have been somewhere it was willing to go, but it's clearly not. And if
What's
you're not willing to do that, you shouldn't be doing this story.
It reminds me of an episode of Deep Space Nine, which Ronald D. Moore was a writer on. He did not write this episode that I'm going to be talking about, but it's a great episode, which is also the striking workers episode of Deep Space Nine, where they have Ferengi Rom run a strike against his brother Quark, who is the skeeving businessman character on the show. He has a heart of gold as the show goes on, but like skeeving businessman guy. And they literally they are, because Quark is a character that we are allowed to see more morally gray. Um, they allow him to be the villain in the episode. Like he literally hires automated workers, which feels very oddly prescient of AI today. Like he literally hires hologram workers who are bad. Um, so like very prescient of AI today, even though it was written back in the 90s. And allows them to like win the strike. Like Rom at one point literally quotes Karl Marx. He says,
Workers of the world, unite. You have nothing to lose but your chains.
so like it very clearly is allowed to have its politics, but the reason it's allowed to do that is because Quark is a character that we are allowed to have more morally gray feelings about, and also there's a second villain who is the even worse version of Quark, who comes in, that is a villainous character that we've hated throughout the whole series. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
So like I guess the equivalent on DS9 would have been if
Cisco. Yeah.
instead of Quark, it was Cisco.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, they would not have him resort to those kinds of dirty tactics
Honestly,
because
I mean, Cisco does some war crimes, so maybe they would have.
maybe, but like it would have landed different
Yes, for sure.
if the character who is meant to be the ostensible hero of the entire show was the one stamping down on the striking workers than
Mm-hmm.
if it's someone like Quark. And here they have the characters that the show very clearly still wants us to like.
Mm-hmm.
And that kneecaps the ability to deliver this message at all. And we'll get into just how bad it is in the next scene.
Yeah, because then the next scene comes and Chief is sort of negotiating with the president. And Chief again makes some good points up here where he's talking about there's like I've seen people pushed into service by where they're born, um and kind of makes the point of like, well, like people are kind of being are more likely like airlines are more likely to be farmers, so they're going to be more likely to be the ones working in the machines, and so we need
Well, I want to nail down the back and forth on this
yeah,
because
yeah, please, please.
I do like the way it goes because the chief is like people are getting stuck into place because of where they're born, and Rosalind, probably partially because of like the lottery thing that she's already done, is like, no, it's based on their skills because that's how they came up with the name for the lotteries. And then the chief points out, yeah, but their skills have to do with where they were born.
Mm-hmm.
Like, none of the people who are from Caprica know how to work this stuff because that's not what you did. And people from these places are the ones who have the skills
Yes.
because that's all they were allowed to be.
And he sort of makes the arguments like we should level the playing field. We have a lot of like low end, like low skill jobs that require that's the kind of work should be allocated to like people like yourself. He literally says, let people on Colonial One get their hands dirty. We can rotate people out for R and do formal training program. And then at one point, like Rosin, I forget, as they're negotiating, she says, "Oh, this is going to have to be a place where the union gives ground." And Chief sort of like union, and she goes, "Oh, I thought you were engaged in collective bargaining." And it's just in that she has this condescending. The line is very condescending because she says something along the lines like, "Oh, I thought you were dealing in collective bargaining. Society's polarized. We are doomed if we destroy each other. And I want to fight for a better society for till my dying breath, and I hope you are too." And it comes across as it's so fucking condescending of like, "Oh, she's the one who tells him to form the union. Oh, isn't it great that the ruling class is the one to tell people that you should form the union? I am so smart. You didn't realize that you should be unionizing against me. And I'm glad I could be the one to fucking tell you that. Fuck
Yeah.
off. Fuck
And
off
I
with that."
just I loathe this entire presentation that ultimately boils down to, oh, the ruling class can be perfectly reasonable because like it's worth noting in this scene the chief is calm and casual and explains it in terms that she hasn't heard before. And I'm not saying there's no value in finding a way to communicate with people in a way they'll understand better, but there's something really fucked up
Mm-hmm.
about saying it because it basically boils down to, oh, well, the last guy who showed up here, he just did it wrong, and like removing what it was that was being fought for out of the equation completely, instead framing it as a matter of presentation, like, oh, look how reasonable she can be when you're calm and when you explain it in a way she can understand. Fuck you, because in reality, ruling classes and those in power, if they are ignorant, it is willfully. They are not like, and honestly, they want to be willfully ignorant of a lot of things, but they are not so stupid as to be convinced because you told them something that they've been hearing for years in a different way. They won't, but they will pretend to budge. They'll say, okay, well, they'll throw you that little bone to make you think like you got something while they gave you almost nothing. But this isn't doing that. If this was having her play politics, like how politics are actually played, which is to basically go, okay, here's all the things that will open up for discussion. And in the meantime, you get back to work, which means nothing concrete has been, but it's not being presented that way. It's being presented as, boy, sure is a good thing that we solved classism.
Yep.
Fuck
And
you.
it is the ruling class person who is like, you should be forming the union. Like it's condescending. It's so fucking condescending that like, oh, you didn't even realize you could form a union. I'm glad to have reminded you of that. Fuck off.
This
Ah,
uh this 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 scene just this scene ruins the entire episode.
it really does. It absolutely fucking does. Yep. Because it reframes the whole episode and what the intention of what the episode was trying to say.
Yeah.
And the only people who are earnestly pointing out the class dynamics are fucking Boltar. Yeah, yeah. It reframes all of that. It's
Yeah.
yeah.
And I mean, that's another thing that we're not even bringing into this. Like, in isolation, separate from this episode,
Mhm.
there is an interesting thing with Baltar, the idea that he might be stirring up these sorts of sentiments to try and create a groundswell of support for him, like or in any way, anything that destabilizes Rosalind at all is
Well, I
helpful
mean,
for
it's
him.
worth noting, like people like Trump and even like Ronald Reagan, like they use populist rhetoric like
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
to be able to
But
gain power. Yeah,
what I'm saying is that
yeah,
while it is interesting within isolation that he might be doing that, in context of this episode, it has the potential, depending on, this may or may not get worse depending on where his stuff goes, because it also has the potential of adding in, like, oh, those ideas, those agitating ideas, it was someone just manipulating those lower class
yes,
people,
yep.
which also doesn't fucking help.
Yep, it's the similar thing they did. There's a Star Wars episode of The Mandalorian. It's my least favorite fucking thing in all of Star Wars. It is one I've mentioned before.
Oh,
Um,
the
the
droids
droid.
who would rather be slaves, that one.
Yes, yes, because that episode does it the same thing where there's a whole episode of The Mandalorian, season 3, episode 6, 5 or 6, one of those two, where like the droids are seemingly rebelling, but then it turns out like, oh no, the droids literally say we like being slaves. They don't ask us to work like humans don't ask us to work. Organics, I guess, organics don't ask us to work too hard. We'll live forever. Their lives are hard. We're happy to be slaves, and it's someone else who's manipulating us, and it's like a fucking conservative coded like Doc Brown, Christopher Lloyd playing a like
I I
yeah,
I know, and what a waste of one of our greatest living actors to
yeah, I know.
throw him at that fucking part.
Yeah, I know. And yeah, he literally, and so it does the same thing of like, ooh, it's people manipulating you behind the scenes. The like working class folks and the like, racialized folks, they like being slaves. They like being working class.
They
It's someone
they were
else
happy
manipulating
until
them.
somebody else stirred up trouble.
The fucking leftists, those goddamn leftists with their Marxist, their cultural Marxism, stirring up problems. Things people should just know their place.
Like, small thing, I think it honestly would have helped if um there was less evidence that Baltar's book had actually gotten very far.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Rosalind knows about it, fine. The chief read it for their confrontation scene, fine. The one guy who showed up, whatever the hell his name was, Zener.
Zener, yeah.
Like, he writes so that Rosalind can get pissed at him, fine. But leave it at that. Don't show it passing around with everybody. And when Callie like starts citing, the more communist socialist ideas, don't have her mention that she got it from that book
Yes,
specifically.
have it her be. I would have, yeah. If you had played the Callie scene of like, if you've had Chief say, he's like, what, you've been reading Balthazar's book? It's like, no, I just been thinking about this a lot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it like that would have helped. And again, it's not a case of, at least at this point in the show, who knows later. But at
Mm-hmm.
this point in the show, I can't say that they are definitely doing a Baltar is stirring up the rabble thing. But I also can't be sure that they aren't doing that either. And it just would have taken a few tweaks that I could go, I don't know, they're not actually doing that.
Mm-hmm.
But they might be. I
Yeah,
don't know.
we'll see. We'll see. Well, we end on the last scene of the episode, which is back on the flight deck. Starbuck comes in and basically chews out Celix, and it's basically revealed like it's kind of a play sort of thing where the like Starbuck is playing up the fact like, hey Nugget, you missed showing up for Viper pilot class, like
Yeah,
you're
you're
supposed
20
to be there
minutes
20
late
minutes
for
late.
orientation.
And I will say it is a sweet scene where the chief sort of says, here, let me help you because you're out of uniform, and he gives her officer pins. She is made an officer. So it's a sweet scene. It is sadly framed by the fact that this is sort of like, oh, this is a magnanimous thing from the ruling class that this is now being given to her.
Yeah.
But it is a on a personal level a sweet scene between Chief
On a
and
personal level, is a sweet scene. Within the context of the episode, it is the
yes,
rabble, the good things that the rabble have is what they are gifted by the ruling class, not things that they take for themselves.
yes. If only we do it civilly. Just work within liberalism. Just civil. It's civil. It's just work within the system. Never demand anything else. This is my. I have a video I'm working on that's about this of like the fucking Pete Buttigieg is being like, you look at you in Minneapolis. You're changing the power dynamics in this country. Not meaning, oh,
So
people are
is that the next video that's going to be out before the Ferengi video?
Yeah, probably. But yes, it's the Pete Buttigieg going like, oh, you're changing the power dynamics in this country. And he doesn't mean you're changing the power dynamics because people are claiming their power and saying fuck like people treating this way.
No,
He
he
means
means you'll vote the Democrats back in.
yes. So
Yeah.
fuck off.
For the record, I never fucking liked that guy.
Yeah, no, Pete Buttigieg can go fuck himself. So, anyways, that is the end of the episode. I think we've made our feelings quite clear on the episode. But if you have anything else to say about the episode overall,
Go to hell.
yeah, same here. Same here. It's sad because until that, like, the Adama scene, I actually, literally right up until the moment where Adama says, oh, I think you had something to go tell the president. Like, because the rest of the scene felt accurate to how Adama would work. Until that, like, Adama gets to be magnanimous, and then
Yeah.
Roslin gets to be magnanimous. This episode was great until that point.
Yeah. It was making a really good case for the necessity of the union, and unfortunately, it ultimately frames the entire notion as a gift given by those in power.
Mm-hmm. Which is never the case.
No.
Yeah.
No. Fuck off.
Yeah. Well, all that said, anything else to say?
No.
Stuff time.
Stuff. You can find my stuff by looking for Council of Geeks. Patreon pays the bills and is how I'm able to do this as my living. The main thing that supports is the Council of Geeks YouTube channel. I think finally out. Most recent video should be the countdown of every episode of Game Changer. That should finally be out. I know I've been
Sure.
Okay, look, it is nowhere near. You of all people do not get to be sassy with me about this. So that is most likely the video that came out most recently. I am working on a video about heated rivalry because enough people, including my own boyfriend, bullied me into watching it, and it's fucking amazing, and I have a lot to say about it. And so that'll probably be further down the line. No promises on a date on that. You can also find Council of Geeks on Blue Sky, and there is the Break Room of Geeks, which is my secondary channel where I talk about whatever I have watched, read, listened to, or played lately. By the time you hear this, I'll have had a run of stuff that I watched while either on the plane or in my hotel room at the con, because I read a book and I watched movies, and I get a shocking amount of work done on planes. So that is the geeky stuff. There is, of course, also the spicy stuff.
Also the spicy stuff.
And for that, you can look for Vera Wild. Wild is spelled WYLDE. And you can find increasingly spicy content on YouTube.
One of these days I'll make you crack. I just want to get you to laugh during it one time. I want to break your voice. Anyways, you can find me at Jesse Gender on YouTube.
Keep trying.
I know. We do video essay style of stuff. You can find me there. I will have the Ferengi video out someday, some mythical day. I have Jesse Gender After Dark, where I do news, reviews, reactions. I am reviewing Star Trek Starfleet Academy. It should be near wrapping up, but not fully up by now. So you can check out my reviews over there. I am on Nebula, which is a streaming service that houses my movie Identities, as well as the upcoming show Subliminal that I directed an episode of that'll be coming out later this year. I am on Patreon, helps me pay my bills. I am on Blue Sky and Instagram. You can follow me on those places. Anything else, Avira?
Nah.
Alrighty, that is it, everyone. I hope y'all live long and prosper.
Be seeing you.